What is up, YouTube? It's Kingfisher745, and welcome to episode 39 of All Hail the King. In this episode, we're going to be featuring some Black Knight team-ups, and like many of you have been saying, this character is amazing since his refactor. Since he now has a lot of utility and many potential team-ups, there's going to be at least one other video focusing on this hero. Also because Matthew at Matt Sketches already made us an amazing graphic for that one. So stay tuned, it will be coming soon. As for this episode, like always, it is based on the From the Helicarrier podcast segment of the same name, and you can find that podcast at www.thehelicarrier.com, or you can visit the link to the corresponding podcast in the description below. Now the setup for this first team is really important, so I'm going to go over it, especially just to try to explain the mechanics at work. And luckily, since we're facing a Groot and Gamora team, it's going to take quite some time. Now let's start with the Black Knight himself. On his very first ability, his Ebony Blade, he has a self buff that's called Blood Curse. This says chance to perform a follow-up attack when an ally attacks a bleeding target. Then it also says chance to counter when a bleeding enemy attacks an ally, and ally slashing attacks apply bleeding. Now before we even get into my agent setup and how he has two blades equipped that both can counterattack, I might add, we're going to take a brief look at Union Jack. Now the reason we love this hero is because of his passive ability Allied Forces, which says chance for a follow-up attack when an ally does a counterattack or a follow-up attack. At this point, I'm sure you can already see how Union Jack and Black Knight could be a really fun combination. But then remember how I mentioned on Blood Curse that ally slashing attacks will add bleeding? Well, you may be surprised to know that 3 out of 4 of Union Jack's attacks are slashing. That's right, Trench Warfare, Over the Top, and V for Victory are all slashing attacks. This is going to lead to bleeding everywhere and the potential for so many follow-up and preemptive attacks. But then, even moving on to our agent, we're using the Blade of the Guardian and the Mercurial. These are both slashing attacks, so they will apply bleeding. That is, once you get Blood Curse on the Black Knight. And then on top of that, both of these weapons can counter, and that will trigger Union Jack and potentially Black Knight. Those are the reasons why this is my favorite team of the episode, and truthfully I'd love to make a full video on them. So let me know if that's something you'd like to see in the comment section below. In this fight, obviously we have been facing Groot and Gamora, probably the most popular team on defense right now. Oh, and this is a pretty high rated opponent as well. Black Knight is pretty hurt right now, but so is the enemy Groot. And it is our turn, so we're going to use the Light Fantastic. This should help us keep our teammate alive. Then with our first actual turn that isn't a quick action, we're first going to use the Blackest Void. This is going to clear the enemy's buffs, and I wish we could have gotten those thorns off Groot earlier. But hey, at least we did remove the bleeding from Black Knight, and that's what was really tearing him up. After that, believe it or not, we're going to leave Groot for now, and we're going to take advantage of off balance on Gamora. So let's hit her with the Blade of the Guardian. This should do a decent amount of damage. It's going to apply bleeding because of Blood Curse, and it's going to give us a buff. Then oddly, I've never seen the AI do this before. They try and execute even though it's not going to work. So yeah, even though I've faced this team so many times, that is something new. Next, with Union Jack, we can use his Over the Top, and then because of flanked, he'll also use his Service Revolver. So basically we get 2 attacks, and we're going to get 2 buffs. These buffs allow us to preemptively counter defensive actions and ranged attacks. So after knocking Groot into baby form, when he goes to use a defensive action, he's going to get taken down by Royal Arms. That's one great way to put an end to cutting form. Then with the Black Knight, what we're going to do is use his level 2 and we'll gain back some health. The reason for this is because I equipped the Sympathetic EISO. I put that on him just in case he needed a little health boost. I didn't want to lose him in this battle, so I just went ahead and played it safe. Next, the enemy agent does have something different equipped. She uses the Quantum Jumper, which I haven't seen in some time. Unfortunately for them, it's not going to help too much because they only have Gamora left. Next, with our agent, we're going to use the Improbability Field as a quick action, and then I'll go ahead and use the Blade of the Guardian on Gamora. I pretty much have to risk this even though she's going to counter. So we do take a Mortal Strike, and then Gamora's going to actually die to dots on her turn. Then with Union Jack, we'll start by using his quick action V for Victory, and that's because we want to place flanked on the enemy agent. Next I'm going to use Over the Top, and we'll follow it up with a Service Revolver. Either way, flanked or not, Union Jack would get a follow-up attack because it's on an Infiltrator. But hey, it is a quick action because of his AISO, which you can find in Season 2, Chapter 4, Mission 1. And flanked will certainly help out our team. So then on Black Knight's turn we're going to start by using Valinor, which unfortunately misses. And then we'll use Ebony Blade, and it's going to be followed up by our level 6. That attack severely injures the enemy agent, and it causes Union Jack to do a follow-up of his own. So talk about a first test for that team, that shows they're certainly viable. Then moving on to our second match, this one's going to be extremely odd, I mean it's off the wall. Of course it starts with Invisible Loki, and he's going to stay invisible for the entire combat, even though I could have sworn they said they fixed it. Then they're also using Null, who is immune to bleeding, so that's going to hurt this team a little bit. For this one we're using X23, and we're using the Cybernetic set. Not only do I like the blaster and the cannon, the blade is a slashing attack, meaning that with Blood Curse it's going to apply bleeding, and it's very capable of doing follow-up attacks, so I thought it could turn out pretty well. Anyways, our agent had to skip his first turn because of stun, so with Black Knight we're going to start with Valinor, and then I'm going to use his level 1 on Null, which is going to give him Blood Curse. Like I said, he isn't going to bleed, so that is going to hurt our setup quite a bit. Next, the Breaker of Worlds hits us with a Ragnarok'em Sock'em. So now with our X23 we're going to start with Blades of Rage, which has 2 times bleeding. Unfortunately the enemies dodge a lot of that attack. And not only that, Loki's going to counter with a Backstab, and their agent's going to counter with a Brawl. At least X23 doesn't seem to be too affected by their hits. But hey, check this out, the Black Knight's going to use his Ebony Blade on both of the targets with bleeding. So I think that's pretty cool that he can trigger off of an AoE attack. Next, with my agent, I'm going to use Momentary Advantage, and then I'm going to follow that up by using a Light Fantastic. I just want to make sure to clear all our debuffs, and to also give us that Mirror Reality cushion. I mean, why not? It is a quick action. So then, after that, I'm going to start by using our Cybernetic Cannon, and this will hit all the enemies. Plus it's going to place Malignant Ice. What this debuff is going to do is make quick actions normal actions, and it really tends to hurt many of the AI defenses. After that AoE attack, once again you see Black Knight use Ebony Blade on both of the bleeding targets. Then with our next attack I'm going to use the Cybernetic Blade, and hopefully we get a follow-up. While the enemy agent does counter, we don't get a follow-up, but we do get another Ebony Blade from the Black Knight. Unfortunately, after their dot damage they hang on with only 1100 HP. And to make things worse, they used a Deathly Freeze Ray. So if we only could have avoided that, we would have been in a much better position. But still, on X23's turn, we can use her level 2, her AoE attack Blades of Rage to finish off the enemy agent, and to put some damage on the other 2 opponents as well. Oh, and this time she's actually going to follow it up with a Snicked, and Black Knight will also join in with an Ebony Blade. So at the beginning of Loki's turn he takes bleed damage, and this almost knocks him out, so right after he attacks, the final bleeds will finish him. At least I think he's finished since he wasn't there to begin with. But no, he definitely is gone. Seriously, when is that going to be fixed? Next up, the enemy Null uses his World Breaker, so that's unfortunate, but now our team has Meteor Swarm. Then on X23's turn, I'm first going to use our level 1. And remember, unfortunately, Luke Cage is immune to bleeding. But we are also going to get a second attack, so at least we do some pretty decent damage. Then on my agent's turn, I'm going to use the Improbability Field as a quick action. Then it's on to Momentary Advantage, followed by Atom Smasher. If this attack doesn't finish off Luke Cage, it should at least get him close. So here goes nothing. Okay, it does a little over 3,000 damage, but we also get a follow-up Ebony Blade. So just to finish off that last bit of health, we'll use the Cybernetic Blade. Then moving on to our third and final team up, at least for this video, we're going to be using Fandral along with Black Knight. I'll start the match out by using Fandral's level 2 on guard. Now what this ability is going to do is it's going to depower the opponent before they attack. So right after Luke Cage uses You're Not Worthy, we're going to hit him, and now his actions should no longer apply statuses. Well, he misses us anyways, but still that was a pretty good first move. Especially considering next we can use the Asgardian Tankard, and it's going to give Fandral another turn right away. Well, before we even go there, we'll use the first seal of Aknazak, and that gives us Indomitable Spirit. What this does is suppresses most effects that remove our buffs. Then after using the Elixir of Recovery, we'll get another turn with both our agent and Fandral. This time with my agent I'm using the Warbringer Axe, which is also a slashing attack. Plus with the first seal that means our War Frenzy should be locked in. And then the other reason we're using Fandral is of course because of Flynning Circus. This AoE stealthy attack places 3 times bleeding on all the enemies at the same time. Of course, once again Null is immune, but still Black Knight should take advantage of both Gamora and the enemy agent's bleeding. So after using a quick action Valinor, we're going to attack with an Ebony Blade on Gamora. And right away we follow it up with a second Ebony Blade. Then also before the enemy agent attacks we do a preemptive Riposte. By the way, Fandral's level 1 Havathi is also a slashing attack. But when you have an amazing level 9 that places 3 times bleeding on all the opponents, well, it almost ends up being overkill. Unfortunately, bleeding can only be applied 3 times. And also, unfortunately, our Havathi misses, but our Ebony Blade does hit. So Gamora and the enemy agent are going down very soon, and I think it's time we started to focus on Null. So with my agent in this second round, also known as the amazing round for the Tactician Empowered Agent, we are first going to be able to use Momentary Advantage and the Light Fantastic as a quick action. After this we're going to get 2 attacks and we can first target Luke Cage with the Warbringer Axe. This weapon is still really impressive even though I don't use it quite as often as I used to. Still, watch this hit on Null, it's actually going to do over 7,000 damage and it takes him below 2,500 HP. Then even though she has bleeds and is definitely going to die, I'm still going to hit Gamora. On Black Knight's turn, we're going to use his level 6, and that finishes off Luke Cage. And then right after that, the agent will die to bleed effects. So that's how our final match is won, and that's how this video is going to end. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and I want to thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, good luck, and take care.